I will. It's all good.
Thanks for your patience while we got that worked out. I should have had somebody light a candle for me because I'm not really used to a lot of public speaking, so just bear with
Go
me.
my job.
Yeah.
Go fit.
This isn't public, this is just your friends.
Yeah.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share my mind with you today. I want to ask your patience as I wade through the first part of my presentation today. Some of what I want to say might be hard for you to hear, but please keep in mind that the points I'm presenting are my perceptions and I can't speak for anybody else. And of course, in keeping with our UU tradition, you're free to disagree with me. And we always have time for discussion afterwards. In 1873, Phoebe Knapp, a composer, took her newly composed song to a good friend, hoping that her friend would be able to come up with some lyrics that were appropriate for the melody. It's said that Mrs. Knapp, or Ms. Knapp, I don't know which, but her friend knelt in prayer, and when she arose, she had the entire lyrics to the song. Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, what a foretaste of glory divine, heir of salvation, purchase of God, born of His Spirit, washed in His blood. So begins one of the most popular of over 8,000 hymns penned by Fanny Crosby, blind poet and writer, and one of the most prolific Christian hymn writers of the 18th and 19th century. She is known as the Queen of Gospel Songwriters, and with the possible exceptions of Isaac Watts or Charles Wesley, she has more songs in American hymnals than any other writer. And the entire lyrics of the song are on the screen. I don't know if you can see all of them down at the bottom. Some of them might be cut off. I grew up on a cappella music. There were no instruments. We considered it to be a sin, and it was voice music only. I've been in auditoriums in churches where there were 200 to 300 people singing this song. And Blessed Assurance is one of those songs that you can't sing too loudly. It becomes very emotional in parts. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. It's like you can't be too loud when you sing that song. And it's actually one of my favorite hymns. But, today when I compare the lyrics of this song to my experience now as a Unitarian Universalist, there's a big difference. The song doesn't quite mean the same to me as it once did. In fact, actually the lyrics of Blessed Assurance kind of remind me of a few things I dislike about being a UU. And I'm going to enumerate some of those things for you today. First thing I dislike about being a Unitarian Universalist is as a UU I have no assurance. I remember the days when I could sing this beautiful hymn with a confident heart, knowing and believing all doubts aside that there was a place in glory waiting for me. But today I can't stand before you and declare all doubts aside that Jesus is mine. I can't stand before you this morning and say that I'm certain of anything in the afterlife, or even if there is. I may believe it, but I can't prove it. And even the testimony of people we believe may have crossed over and come back to this dimension, many times that's dismissed as a hallucination or oxygen deprivation, or there's some other scientific reason to explain that away. I can't be assured of anything because I've awakened to the discomforting fact that I just don't know. The second thing that I dislike about being a Unitarian Universalist is as a UU, I have no special savior. I can't proclaim Buddha, Allah, the Dalai Lama, Jehovah, Yahweh, Krishna, Mother Nature, Moses, Jesus, or any other entity as my sole train ticket to freedom. My only rescue when I'm in trouble, or my single solace when I need comfort. I can no longer think, speak, and live as I once did with this inner dialect of, I just have to rely on Jesus, he'll get me through. Or God will take care of it all. I can't do that anymore. Last Christmas season was especially difficult for me. It was my first holiday season as a UU. And emotionally, I missed participation in some of the religious rites I was accustomed to. But in my mind, logically, as a UU, I could not participate in those to the degree that I once did. Those old customs and habits don't fit well with my chosen faith as a UU. There are times when I miss it, when I practice a faith where I had a special Savior that was devoted to me. Pardon me just a second. The third thing that I dislike about being a UU is as a UU there are no dogmatic rules for religious practice or guidance. I submit to no particular holy book or law. As a UU, I understand there are no set rules for an individual's religious or spiritual theory. And sometimes it's hard for me to know what to believe. There are so many different paths, and even within a particular faith or religion, there can be many differing schools of thought, of conservatism or liberalism within that faith. As a UU, walking the shaky ground of uncertainty sometimes is scary for me, as I make my way down different paths on my own journey, and all of us take that journey. It's an individual journey. Sometimes I miss pointing to a page or opening a book and pointing to a page and saying, here's what to do, here's how it must be done, and that's the truth. I had the rule book. I came from a faith that in no uncertain terms, it was spelled out for me what to believe and in whom to believe. I didn't have to doubt, I didn't have to worry, I didn't have to figure it out on my own. It was all in black and white. I could just believe what I read, and I did. Being a UU leaves an open door for difficulty and disagreements. There's no right or wrong way to conduct our Sunday service. There are no dictates from heaven regarding our actions as a congregation. There's nothing written in stone dealing with problems. Sometimes I feel a little fearful when I don't have all the answers right before me in black and white. The next thing I dislike about being a UU is as a UU, there's no real hierarchy in the church. The church may have officers, but nobody's really the boss, right? We don't have elders, a rabbi, a priest, a bishop, or lama, or a pope as a spiritual leader. We don't have that one final authority to tell us what we must do or how to do it. There's nobody to make that final, really difficult decision when there are disagreements or when personalities get in the way of our progress. Instead, we're a democracy. Everyone gets an equal vote. This democracy does not take into consideration the wisdom or experience on the part of some members or the immaturity and greediness of other members. Good ideas or good people may be outvoted on important or even crucial issues. Decisions may not have always been to my liking, but in my pre-UU life, I somehow felt safe. when there was an elder or another top spiritual leader that I could fall back on in the church, in relations in the church, or just in my life as well. I don't know if you can see this, but it says the last point I want to make is something I dislike about being in UU is I can count on being misunderstood by my family, friends, and other mainline religions. We've all heard the comments. UUism is a cult. UUs don't really believe anything. They'll allow anybody in their churches. There's no right or wrong if you're a UU. Before I was a UU, it was comforting to know that the majority, or the near majority, of the world stood with me in my faith. I knew that anywhere I went in this country, and probably most areas of the world, that I could find a church to connect with doctrinally and in practice. The idea of Jesus pretty much permeated society everywhere, in my world at least. And I didn't have to field smug remarks or attempt to debunk misconceptions people may have. Nobody thought I was weird, or at least not because of my religious faith, let's put it that way. My former church teaches that their particular brand of Christianity has the market cornered on salvation, the one true church. They are more conservative than Southern Baptists and more one universal church believing than Catholics. In fact, we believed that Baptists and Catholics were all hell-bound sinners needing the truth. And of course, we had that truth. Although I was trained and indoctrinated and actually stayed a practicing member of that church until 1994, when I look back on my life, I can now see that the roots of UUism were growing inside of me, sprouting somewhere. There are a few events that I can remember that probably were that UU mentality growing and yearning for freedom and expression. And today I want to share with you one particular event. In 1981, I began dating a man from my church. He was an ex-Catholic and very, very serious about his faith, his convictions, and morality. Me, I wasn't quite so serious, but I was only 16 at the time. We dated for 3 years. I can't remember exactly in which one of those years this event occurred, but it was just sometime in that time frame. The radio was a point of particular dispute between he and I. He was always flipping the radio stations because the song had a bad word in it, or it had some sexual connotation or a reference to drugs or alcohol. You get the idea. And even back then, it was hard to find songs that didn't somehow talk about, or at least have some innuendo on a lot of these things. So there was a lot of this going on. One time when we were together, this song, Imagine, came on the radio. And an argument started. I liked the song and I wanted to listen to it. And I'll admit I was originally attracted to the song because of the musical score. You know, it's a little different. But on this particular date, the words created a crack somehow in that hard shell of dogmatism that I lived in. I believe I was having an epiphany. And I remember saying, well, wouldn't it be great if there was no hell and no religion? And now when I think about it, it's just kind of ironic. We were fighting over a song about peace. So I shared a little bit of the past and expressed to you some things I don't like about being a UU, or things that maybe are a little discomforting to me. Now allow me to share some things with you that I love being about a UU. The first thing I love about being a UU, back up, is I have no assurance. I have no assurance of anything in this life or the next. In my pre-UU life, I lived life expecting guarantees. The guarantee that somebody was coming back for me one day. The guarantee that my faith was inerrant and I had it all. That I would always have a job or a significant other's love, of my health. You can go on and on. But there are no guarantees. I've been reading a book called Our Chosen Faith. And in Our Chosen Faith, F. Forster Church says this about religion. He said, religion is our human response to the dual nature of being alive and yet having to die. Offering religious security blankets and heavenly insurance policies, many faiths base their considerable appeal on the denial of death. They reduce this life for preparation for the next, potentially finer life. By refusing to accept the dispensation of death as a condition for the gift of birth, life's intrinsic wonder and promise are diminished. Unitarian Universalism might be best described as a life-affirming rather than a death-defying faith. Yet to affirm life, we must also face death and struggle to make sense of both. The claims of mainline religions may be true. There may be a better place somewhere. Our planet may be headed for a paradise, a heaven, a nirvana may exist. Maybe I'll come back as another soul. Or maybe I'll just cease to exist. It's all maybe, because nobody knows. There's no assurance of any of it. And because there's no assurance, I'm challenged right now, every day, to live my life to the fullest. To grow, to love, to share. I can't count on getting another chance, either here or somewhere else. It would be wonderful if I did get another chance, because there's some things I'd like to rewind and fix that. But all I'm assured of is right now. There used to be an Army commercial on TV that said, be all you can be. I think it was the Army. Having no assurance prompts me to make an effort to live that precept in my life every day. And I'm so much happier that that's how I live now. The next thing I love about being a UU is I have no special savior. My mind has been opened to the wonderful truth that the revelation of truth is not complete. And no one particular religion or faith has all the answers. Truth, light, and love can be found in many faiths, not just one. Now, instead of being confined to the teachings of one particular master teacher, I have the blessing to appeal to many spiritual teachers who can offer enlightenment to my life, to examine an issue or principle in the light of the mind of many wise and deeply spiritual individuals, both living and departed. Some of those teachers are in this room. Had I not been here, I wouldn't have gotten to know you. The third thing I love about being a UU is, as a UU, there are no dogmatic rules for religious practice or guidance. I'm able to grow on my own spiritual journey. I have within me that eternal light and the force that empowers our universe. You can call this force God, the cosmos, whatever. But regardless of how you understand that energy, that force, know that it abides in me, it abides in you, in all of us. Because I'm not constrained by rules or perceptions dictated by others, either presumed written revelation or their experiences, I am free. I am free to search one direction and then another. I can change my mind. I'm free to learn and to evolve. I'm able to search for myself for truth, for meaning, and for purpose, and to not have another individual or group of individuals telling me where to go, what to believe, or what to do. Again, in Our Chosen Faith, John Burns talks about a Puritan-era Unitarian preacher named Ellery Channing. Regarding religious education, Channing is quoted to have said this: "The end in religious instruction is not to stamp our minds upon the young, but to stir up their own. Not to make them see with our eyes, but to look inquiringly and steadily with their own. Not to bind them with prejudices of our own particular sect or peculiar notion, but to prepare them for impartial, conscientious judging of whatever subjects may be offered to their decision." Unquote. I wish I had grown up in that type of environment, but I'm happy to finally be a part of an environment that encourages that kind of growth and personal exploration. The next thing I love about being a UU is there's no real hierarchy in the church. Nobody is running the show. We have officers, but those officers are servants. Up to the congregation to give their time and hearts because they love the church and they want to see it prosper and grow, and to develop into the collective spiritual giant that we really are together. Each active member has the option to express himself or herself and to be heard, and each vote is equal. New members are not treated like spiritual babies, incapable of making decisions or not bringing value and light into our congregation. By congregational vote, our churches always have the option to not follow the leadership provided by the board. You know what? We trust ourselves as a church to have the wisdom to know what's best for our group. And in the event we are mistaken, I know that we have the courage and character to stick together and forge ahead to success via some other route if it didn't work out that way. Taking risks together and together enduring the struggle of growth forges strong bonds between members of any organization, UUs included. And the final thing that I love about being a UU, can you guess what it is? As a UU, I can count on being misunderstood by my family, friends, and other mainline religions. Let's face it, everybody, or probably everybody, has one friend, neighbor, or family member who thinks we're a little odd because of our chosen faith, right? Yeah. We are one of those people who are out there somewhere. We don't fit in with mainstream, and you know what? That's wonderful, because that means we stand out as individuals and as a group. We're unique, and there's a sort of mystique about us, because we are such a mass configuration of varying ideas and theories and philosophies and whatever else you can throw in that basket that I'm talking about. You cannot say met one you met them all. It doesn't work that way. And if somebody really wants to know about us as a group, or about just you as an individual, or me as an individual, you're going to have to really check it out. Okay? You can't make any assumptions. They can, but there's no assurance that they'll be correct. And there's that word assurance again, right? Okay. Because we're all so different, only true seekers will spend any amount of time at all watching us and listening to us. And even if a seeker decides not to join us, or that this isn't for them, I believe that a true seeker will find at least a part of himself or herself while looking at us. Something will knock in their mind or in their heart. And they'll be blessed, and that's beautiful, whether they're a part of us or not. So I guess it really depends on what you're going to look at whenever you examine a faith or a job or where you're going to live. What aspect are you going to look at? I know there have been some chuckles regarding the dual nature of my bullet points this morning. It sounds like everybody caught right away what I was doing.
Great.
But in life, it's true that what you look at is what you see. I came up with that on my own. Can you believe that? What you look at is what you see. How profound. We choose what we want to focus on in our life. There's an upside and a downside, a pro and a con in everything in life. At times we might make lists. Benefits, disadvantages, pros, cons, before you make a big financial decision or a life-altering event. And the outcome will vary according to the fears, the attitude, and the goals of the individual who's pondering this decision. I love being a UU. And within this group and these walls, although they're new walls now, I found a peace and a freedom I've never experienced in my life. To be honest, there are times when the old fears awaken for a little bit, for a few moments. But thankfully, those periods have become less and less with the more I learn and evolve. For me, the bottom line was this. Am I going to base my life on uncertainty? Am I going to allow fear of rejection, fear of being wrong, fear of the unknown to push me to live by values and ideology for which there is no proof of their reality? Or am I going to base my life on certainty, living in a way that I can see and know for certain has impact here and now, and live by values, principles out of love. Love for myself, love for those I'm directly connected to in my personal world, and love for the world as a whole. Those were my two choices. And I took the second road. Thank you. That's all I have.